Pengalaman yang berhormat, berhubung dengan cukai kekayaan dengan izin wealth tax, kerajaan tidak mempunyai sebarang cadangan untuk melaksanakan pada masa ini. Sekian, terima kasih.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Amirul Hakimi and I will talk about the summary of the article. So, in this newspaper article, namely implementing wealth tax in Malaysia may get tricky by the Malaysian Reserve, mainly discussed about the taxation system in Malaysia, where the rich of the country always have ways to avoid being taxed. So the article discussion mainly revolves by the testimony by the experts in the field of taxation and finance. Firstly, the Malaysian Association of Tax Accountants has cautioned against taxing the wealthy, citing concerns that it could encourage them to keep their assets abroad. The association's Deputy Secretary General, Dr. Muhammad Fairuz A. Razak, said that introducing a wealth tax has been always difficult, as affluent individuals can move their fortunes between tax jurisdictions, making it hard for tax authorities to audit global assets. Furthermore, he also noted that it is difficult for tax authorities to apply judgment on whether valuation of foreign assets are fair. Dr. Muhammad Fairuz A. Razak also suggested that the absence of wealth tax on the disposal of investment or capital assets is one of Malaysia's competitive advantages in the global investment market. Also, the article, Dr. Muhammad Fairuz A. Razak also suggested that instead of implementing a wealth tax, taxpayers should be given the option to redeploy the tax payable by purchasing government bonds or private debt securities with a particular tenure. This will ensure that wealth tax is reinvested back into Malaysia. He also warned that implementing a wealth tax could lead to an increase in tax disputes between the Inland Revenue Board, as taxpayers may move to other jurisdictions to avoid the tax. So another testimony by Deloitte Malaysia tax leader Sim Guak Gat also suggested that Malaysia should consider similar measures to Singapore, which recently raised tax on its wealthiest 1%. She also added that more effort needs to be done to ensure that all individuals pay their fair share of taxes. The mandatory assignment of tax identification number to all nations above the age of 18, coupled with greater enforcement activities, should provide the government with more visibility on these taxpayers and in turn generate more tax revenue for the country. So that's all regarding the summary of the article.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Siti Nur Atika. So I will proceed to explain the first issue that we found in the newspaper article, which is difficulty and implementation of wealth tax. So for this issue is about the implementation of wealth tax in Malaysia may be challenging due to difficulty in valuing the asset, especially in certain cases where assets are held out of the country as stated in the article by the Deputy Secretary General of the Malaysian Tax Accountant Association, Dr. Muhammad Fairuz A. Razak. Okay, wealth tax target individual with a high net worth, and this tax is determined by the government to whom the tax should be imposed. This wealth tax is imposed on the high income group. Due to this, they use any alternative to avoid the tax that are imposed to them, such as by transferring the asset to the family members or managed by the outside entities. If tax thresholds that are too low may affect a large part of the population, and if the tax threshold is too high, the government needs cannot be met because it cannot generate enough revenue. So, when the government faced difficulty in implementing the wealth tax, the Malaysian government they took another step by imposing a personal income tax on the high income individual. The tax was increased from 28% to 30% for those whose taxable income that exceed 2 million. But 2,000 high-income earners are affected by the tax imposed. The second issue in the newspaper article is the implementation of wealth tax will have an impact on Malaysian economy. In explaining this issue, the implementation of wealth tax will cause the shareholder to hold back and delay from selling to avoid being taxed. As stated by Dr. Muhammad Fairuz in the article, this issue results in a lock-in effect in the short term where it can affect the stability and also efficiency of the equity market. Furthermore, the absence of the wealth tax on the disposal of investment or capital asset is one of the major competitive advantage in the global investment market. So the rich people move their asset and investment from out of the country to avoid being taxed. The wealth gap between the rich and the poor cannot be bridged if they invest and transfer assets to the abroad. Due to the action made by these people, which may result in reduced economic growth and also the development. Therefore, the government needs to be efficient by planning the right activities based on the tax income. The waste of the tax money is actually unnecessary, so the efficiency of the government in handling the revenue from this tax can save money and the taxpayer are not burdened. So that's all from me. Then I pass to Iskandar to explain the next issue. Thank you.
Among the issues that will arise when the government introduces a wealth tax in Malaysia is the opposition from the rich. The article notes that there is likely to be resistance to the wealth tax from the wealthy, who may argue that the tax is unfair, does not incentive investment, and could drive wealthy individuals and businesses out of the country. This can be strengthened theoretically by income distribution, is one of the main problem or issue for taxpayer, because the demand from the public asking for the rate taxes imposed on the rich should be increased compared to the middle and lower income group. In the article, the tax expert suggested that the government may need to provide incentive or exemption to alleviate this concern. The other issue is there is more wealthy people who are not taxed. There is something that happened because non-working but high-income individuals such as freelancer, influencer and e-commerce owner are not taxed, which is automatically deducted from their monthly salary, compared to the other job where the taxes are automatically deducted from the monthly salary. This can happen because such individuals do not have a pay slip or do not working under any company, so they can avoid being taxed with this. That's all for the issue.
Hi and Assalamualaikum, I am Hudarana binti Mizaruddin Asmat and I will explain the recommendation. Okay, firstly, expand the tax base. Okay, government can boost revenue collection and lessen the burden on individual taxpayers by broadening the tax base. The tax base can be increased in the following ways. Increasing tax compliance. Increasing tax compliance among people and enterprises that do not currently pay taxes is one efficient strategy to broaden the tax base. Okay, this can be done by enforcing tax rules and regulation more strictly, particularly by imposing penalties for tax evasion and by putting in place efficient tax collecting procedures. Okay, then, adding new taxes. Adding additional taxes to existing untaxed activity is another strategy for expanding the tax base. For instance, the government might think about imposing taxes on non-essential services or pursuits like yacht ownership and leisure activities. In conclusion, this approach can assist the government in raising revenue while lowering the burden on individual taxpayers, resulting in a more enduring and equitable tax structure. Secondly, advocate for the taxation system vertical equity premise. Vertical equity is a taxation philosophy that prioritizes fairness and progressive tax. Persons with higher incomes or more financial means are subject to higher rates of taxation than those with lower means. The following are some strategies for promoting vertical fairness in the tax system. One of the most popular strategies to promote vertical fairness is to implement a progressive tax system in which tax rates rise as income levels do. People with higher incomes pay more in taxes, while people with lower income pay less. Next, accountability and transparency. Ensuring accountability and transparency in the tax system can aid in the promotion of vertical equity. This involves making sure that the tax rules and regulations are understandable and accessible, and the tax administration carries out and upholds tax policy in an effective and equitable manner. In conclusion, this action can contribute to the development of fairer and more equitable tax system in which people and organizations both contribute to their capacity to pay, resulting in a more equitable allocation of the tax.
The third recommendation is to implement a wealth tax. A wealth tax has been proposed as a way to address wealth inequality and generate revenue for the government. Under this system, individuals with substantial assets would pay a small percentage of their net worth annually as taxes. Proponents of a wealth tax argue that it could create a fairer tax system and generate significant revenue for the government, which could be used to fund social programs and address public policy issues. However, implementing a wealth tax can be challenging. Determining the value of an individual's asset accurately can be difficult, and there is a risk of tax avoidance or evasion. To prevent this, effective measures must be put in place to ensure compliance with tax law. It is essential to design a wealth tax system that is fair, efficient, and enforceable to avoid unintended consequences and ensure its success. Overall, a wealth tax could potentially address wealth inequality and generate revenue for the government. But careful consideration and planning are necessary for it to be effective. Lastly is improving the enforcement and compliance. This can help reduce the evasion and increase revenue collection. By ensuring individuals and business pay the tax they owe, the government can generate more revenue and reduce the tax burden on those who are already paying their tax. The government can take action to improve tax enforcement and compliance. Firstly, by strengthening tax laws to make them more robust and clear. Individuals and business can better understand their tax obligation. Secondly, the government can provide better support to taxpayers, such as tax education to help them comply with tax law and regulation. Thirdly, increased transparency in tax administration can promote accountability and discourage tax evasion. For instance, the government can make public the tax returns of public officials and high-income earners. In summary, improving tax enforcement and compliance requires a multi-phase approach. By doing so, the government can ensure that everyone pay their fair share of tax and reduce the burden on those who are already complying with tax law, potentially addressing the issue of tax evasion and increasing revenue for the government.
Then I will explain the principle of taxation. There are a few principles of taxation which are fairness, certainty, convenience, and efficiency. Fairness should be in accordance with the taxpayers' circumstances, including their capability to pay in light of their demands for personal and family cares. And next, certainty indicates that the purpose and method of taxation are fully disclosed to taxpayers.
Thirdly, the convenience principle states that the tax system should be easy and convenient for taxpayers to comply with and for the government to administer. This means that the tax system should be simple and clear with minimal complexity and administrative burden. Taxpayers should be able to understand their tax obligation easily and be able to file their tax returns without difficulty. The government should also be able to collect tax efficiently and without significant administrative costs. A tax system that is convenient for both taxpayer and the government promotes compliance and helps ensure that tax revenue is collected effectively. Lastly, the efficiency principle of taxation means that the tax system should raise the necessary revenue for the government in the most economically efficient way possible. This means that the tax system should minimize the economic distortion and inefficiencies that can result from taxation. The efficiency principle encourages policymakers to consider the potential impact of tax on incentive to work, save, invest, and consume. It is essential to design a tax system that is efficient to ensure that the government collect revenue without excessively burdening the economy or hindering economy growth. An efficient tax system can also help reduce compliance costs for taxpayers, making it easier for them to comply with tax law and regulation. That is all from me. Thank you.
In conclusion, while taxing the wealth may provide a solution for increasing tax revenue, it is crucial to carefully evaluate the potential unintended consequences that could arise from such actions. The issues surrounding the implementation of a wealth tax must be carefully considered and addressed to ensure its success. The government may take into account factors such as the impact on the investment climate in Malaysia and how it aligns with existing legislation. By adopting a strategic and comprehensive approach, the government can successfully implement a wealth tax while mitigating any negative effects it may have on the economy and investment climate. That's all from us. Thank you.